to Kmart for hot deals during the brightest blue light special. Going on now at your nearest Kmart store.
This Olympic winning moment is sponsored by your Southern California Toyota dealers, where the bottom line is a great deal.
1976, Montreal. The United States basketball team tries to regain the Olympic crown it lost to the Soviet Union 4 years before. Led by Adrian Dantley, Phil Ford, and Quinn Buckner, the U.S. whips Yugoslavia in the final. Champs once more. For the American team, an Olympic winning moment.
Every 88 Toyota is about to go, because right now, Toyota dealers are cutting up to $555 off the price of a package of options on new Toyota Camrys, tearing up to $735 off new Toyota trucks, slashing up to $1,035 off new Toyota Celicas. But you've got to get to your Toyota dealer by October 3rd. And that's the bottom line.
If you've got stagnant water sitting around in ponds, planters, or buckets, any place mosquitoes might breed, LA County health officials are warning you to get rid of it. They've just detected a third case of encephalitis this season in chickens near the Sepulveda Dam. Encephalitis is spread from birds to people through mosquitoes. It's a potentially fatal disease that can cause an inflammation of the brain and spinal cord. In addition to removing standing pools of water, officials urge people to wear mosquito repellent when entering an infested area. A toxic cloud of chlorine boiled up from a film lab in Hollywood today, and the lab was quickly evacuated to 400 people. 5 workers at the Consolidated Film Industries lab on Seward Street in Hollywood were exposed to toxic fumes. The chlorine gas formed when nitric acid and bromine used in movie film processing spilled and mixed. The fire department's hazardous materials squad decontaminated the victims at the scene, and were told none appeared to be seriously injured. Firefighters used fans to vent the buildings before employees returned to work.
A visit to the dentist's office strikes fear into most of us, young, old, intermediate. Today, Dr. Howard Torman tells us about a new study which, as if we needed it, could cause us added concern when we visit the dentist. And I don't know whether I want to hear it or not, Howard.
At least this concern won't hurt. That's the good news.
That's right.
Gosh, you know, we've known for several years now that there are some glands in some parts of the body that seem particularly sensitive to radiation exposure, like you'd get from having an X-ray exam. For instance, if you receive a lot of radiation to the neck, then you're much more likely to develop thyroid cancer, and radiation to the head seems to increase, amongst other things, salivary gland tumors. Salivary glands, by the way, are the things that give you saliva in your mouth. Now, one common way to get that radiation to the head is with dental X-rays, and there's a new study now in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute that I think is worth hearing about before you climb into the dentist chair again. The sound alone causes anxiety for most of us. But instead of worrying about the dentist's drill, it's all those painless dental X-rays that should be making you nervous, at least according to a new study done by USC and UCLA. The study found that the risk of getting cancer of the salivary glands is related to having dental X-rays.
The dental X-ray exposure was significantly higher in the cases, that is, a group of people that had parotid gland tumors, than it was in the controls.
The parotid, or salivary gland, is located at the base of the cheek, where it can get caught in the crossfire of dental X-rays. The higher the X-ray dose, the more likely a problem.
One can show that there is a correlation between people who had a larger dose and people who have a larger incidence of tumors.
It takes years for the tumors to appear. Now, most of those with tumors in the study had their damaging radiation way back when it took a much larger X-ray dose to get decent pictures.
There are, in fact, a large number of surveys where studies have been made looking at dental practices and going into dental offices and measuring the amounts of radiation, and it is known with a very high degree of confidence that the amount of radiation that patients are getting now is much less than it used to be.
There's been a major improvement in technology, in equipment, and in film speed. When I got out of school 20 years ago, we were using equipment and film that required 3 or more seconds worth of radiation per film.
Still, the radiation dose can add up, along with the risk, if you have lots of X-rays taken each time you visit the dentist.
It's up to that professional judgment of the dentist to determine when those x-rays need to be taken. I think all dentists are conscientious as far as the amount of x-rays that they take, and I'm fairly certain that most dentists don't take x-rays that aren't really needed.
Yeah, the operative word here is most dentists, because there are unfortunately some dentists and doctors, for that matter, take x-rays as a matter of routine whether you really need it or not. Which means that ultimately it's really up to you to keep track of your own radiation dose, and as difficult as it may be, you have to ask, are these films really necessary? Now, the number of films that you can get can really add up as you go from one dentist to another. You go to your general dentist who takes 6 films to decide you need a root canal. Then you go to the endodontist who does the root canal and takes another 10 films. Then you go to somebody else for a crown who takes 6 more films, and by the end of the whole thing, you've got a pile of x-rays there, and not one person is aware of what the other has taken.
Psychological war between two top New York City newspapers. When the Daily News came out with the story that Tyson had attempted suicide, its rival, the Post, came out with the story the next day that Tyson was just fine. Now today, the Post has come out with the story that Tyson admits he is a manic depressive who takes lithium to control the disorder. What will the Daily News print next? Who can say? Is Mike Tyson depressed? I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that by now the rest of us are. Here is something genuinely depressing. There are suggestions that National League umpire Dave Pallone took a leave of absence last week because of allegations he was involved in a sex ring in upstate New York. Pallone, the precipitator in the Pete Rose ump bump last April, asked off the NL staff last week. His lawyer says Pallone did so to address allegations that he was part of a group of men who had sex with teenage boys in Saratoga Springs, New York. Yet the assistant district attorney...
Although defense is complex, there is a simple element of I'm going to go get you.
It's controlled violence. That's what defense is. You know, you got to play with controlled violence. You know, every man has to know his assignment, but the thing that you have to do, you have to be under control. You have to understand that you're only as good as the guy next to you.
Taking on the Giants is for the Rams like looking in the mirror and playing themselves. They are two teams struggling somewhat on offense and surviving with solid defense. For Rams safety Johnny Johnson, it's a natural instinct to defend.
You think like a wild cat. I mean, it's just like a lion. Like, this is my territory. It's mine. You have to take it away from me. And not only that, I look at it from a standpoint of, I want some of your territory.
From Anaheim, this is Tony Hernandez, Channel 2 Action News.
Meantime, while he's been thinking of the Dodger magic number 3, a bunch of other folks were thinking of how to surprise Dodger manager Tom Lasorda on the occasion of his birthday. That's a neat trick considering Tommy's been through 61 of these now and pretty much has the date ingrained in his mental calendar. Still, the Copley newspaper folks were able to sneak a cake into a Lasorda speaking engagement at his own restaurant in Marina Del Rey.
Happy birthday, dear Tommy. Happy birthday to you.
Tommy, the singing was nice, so was the well-wishing, but Tommy was more concerned about getting at that cake. And it was certainly nice of them to stage those Olympics in Seoul to help celebrate Tom's birthday. Happy birthday, Tommy.
You make a cake out of linguine.
If it's total oatmeal, it's total nutrition.
Welcome to autumn. It arrived this afternoon, and ahead lie golden days and October's bright blue weather, and then Thanksgiving. Most days, most places, autumn is a season for strolling and seeing the streets full of people, all kinds of people. And as Bob McNamara discovered, you may even find a circus in the endless variety of America's streets.
In San Francisco, in Boston, in Boulder, Colorado. If street performers seem almost everywhere, they are. The clown sculpting balloons, human robots working their tin cups, and Eugene Howard working Misty for the money to go to Europe.
I'm tired of working on the farm, tired of working for kids and wives and never having nothing left for myself, so before I die, I want to do something for myself.
The Butterfly Man, yeah!
11 years on the street and mall minstrel circuit, Robert Nelson's act is part Rambo, part Rickles. Today we're the Fiddler, where the sax man used to be arrested. They're now seen not as panhandlers, but threads in the fabric of a town.
They're not bums. It's just they chose this particular lifestyle because they work for themselves.
This is it for me. I was a cabinet maker for 10 years before I did this, and I enjoy this a lot more, and I make better money at it.
Today there's a budding street performer subculture. Hundreds at a recent jugglers convention in Denver to learn new tricks or hone the old ones. But the tricks, the street veterans say, aren't the whole trade.
The things that you throw up in the air in your hands give you an excuse to be up here, but that doesn't mean that you are going to be able to deal with the people that are sitting in front of you.
In a city where street performers go from cable car motormen to the dogs posed for pictures for $1, competition is fierce. But make them laugh, the rule goes, and you can empty wallets. And that's the toughest trick to passing the hat.
We want you to understand that if we've brightened your day, or lightened your hearts, or just made you smile, you owe us something.
And the best acts are paid well.
It's free enterprise at its purest. It's one of the few things where you give someone a service, you give it to them, and then you say, now, pay us what you think it's worth.
The granddaddy of San Francisco street minstrels is Ray Jason.
I just celebrated my 17th anniversary on the streets. 17 years without a real job. Yeah!
But being the only official juggler of a pro football...
Carry $30 in savings. Even our Maytag Rangers are $30 off.
At least they got someplace to go.
Save on Maytag now at Howard, San Gabriel, La Habra, and Upland.
This is our promise to you. Only at Waterbed Gallery can you pick out that beautiful new waterbed or bedroom set of your dreams, have it delivered, and start enjoying the best sleep of your life for 30 nights. And if you don't agree that a Waterbed Gallery waterbed gives you the best in comfort and support, we'll take it back for an exchange or refund. It's that simple. It's Waterbed Gallery's exclusive 30-night promise of comfort.
Make it a Waterbed Gallery night. A Waterbed Gallery night.
In the USA section, tonight's profile, the next Tom Clancy. Tomorrow, Clancy's blockbuster Patriot Games will be overtaken on the bestseller list by this military thriller, Team Yankee. The writer's name is Harold Coyle. Where does he get his expertise in war and weapons? He's still on active duty.
This is Army Major Harold Coyle at work. This is author Harold Coyle at home in Fort Hood, Texas. He's one of a number of authors writing military techno-thrillers, books in which the characters share equal billing with tanks, submarines, and high-tech weapons.
Military titles, military-related books, are very, very strong in sales, and we don't see a decrease in that yet.
Coyle's first novel, Team Yankee, was the story of a tank company commander fighting World War III against the Soviets in Germany. Tomorrow, the paperback version will be #1 on Publishers Weekly best-selling list. And Coyle's second novel, Sword Point, is just out.
Angeles County Fair through October 2nd in Pomona. Never has so much fun been crammed into so little time.
Being marooned on a desert island wouldn't be so bad, as long as there were Weight Watchers entrees. All 35 of them. Spicy, saucy pastas, tasty choice of chicken, from enchiladas to southern fried. Pizza? Yes, 7 varieties. And fish and beef. I could dine happily and heartily for weeks and never be bored. Weight Watchers. This is living. To the fabulous Mexican.
A lot of money on the line here.
Right.
Who's that?
No.
You get paid a lot of money.
Right.
Who's that? The
Right,
advertisers are spending a lot of money.
Cut. But let's not turn it into something it isn't.
Who's that? You're selling a lawnmower.
Yeah, right.
It's not Oahan. You don't look back at him. It's not World War III.
No.
Who's that?
It's not even a little skirmish down the street.
You know what? I think we'll forget that. Helen? Helen? Helen, can you see me? Helen! There is the Settlemyre look. Can you hear me, Helen? His characters are, how should we put it? They're weirdos.
No, they're not weirdos.
Yeah, right. Good. Beautiful. Beautiful, Frank. Yeah.
We've been so conditioned by all this plastic crap on TV that if we see anyone, like anyone walking down the street, you wouldn't even notice that guy. If you see him in my commercial, you say, my God, he's way out. Well, he's way out relatively to all that other plastic stuff you see.
Helen, just relax. Just do what I tell you. Don't try to analyze it.
They're not weirdos. They're regular people.
He says, what about gas? And you say, what? What? And you say, gas. Gas. And with that, you say, oh, probably last night's casserole.
His commercials may make you laugh, but on the set where millions of dollars are on the line, it's clear that there's nothing funny about humor.
Now, don't you look at me this time or I'll blow you up.
Cut!
You.
Get the smile on your face. Smile!
It's okay if viewers laugh.
That's great. Beautiful.
As long as the sponsors are also laughing all the way to the bank. As for the lawnmower people, the grass, they say, has never been greener.
We had a record year in 1987, and we will have a record year in 1988. Those are the 2 years that we've been airing the spot that Joe did for us last.
Action!
Who's that?
Our neighbor, Orrin. Ever since he got his new Murray, he's been mowing the whole neighborhood.
Uh-huh.
If it works, why did it work?
First of all, they would have been entertained. They wouldn't have been bored.
Go!
And they'd go out with a nice feeling about the product. It'll make them interested in finding out more about it.
Can you see Helen?
We spent 48 hours backstage at Settlemeyer's Theater of the Absurd.
Got it centered?
Yes, sir.
Now the curtain is about to rise on the newest Settlemeyer play. To mow or not to mow?
When you pay good money for a mower, you want it to be tough and dependable.
Does such a good job, we're making the yard bigger.
What?
Does such a
Murray
good...
mowers are as tough as they come, cutting after cutting after cutting.
That Murray's a good buy.
What? Goodbye.
Oh, say hello to Edna.
Murray mowers, tough as they come.
You've probably seen this commercial 1,000 times, but do you recognize it?
Listen to the heartbeat.
Now you do.
Listen to the heartbeat of America.
It's simply the top jingle of the past 3 years. All in a day's work for Robin Bateau and Jeff Southworth.
Feel the heartbeat of America. That's today's
He played on guitar. He was sitting right here, I remember. And I said, well, Robin, it sounds good to me, but you got to get it done in 3 hours. And that spot that he did that night in 3 hours on an 8-track machine was the spot that went on the air.
They're high.
Joey Levine is the soul of Crushing Enterprises, the jingle house that created Heartbeat, just about the hottest music makers in advertising.
Walking through a jingle house is a little like being trapped in a television show without the show. Wall-to-wall commercials. Lipton iced tea. Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Kentucky Fried Chicken is real.
And if it's not tea or chicken, then it's beer. Budweiser. And if they're not recording them, they're creating them.
So slippy slidey, gooey glidey, flip and flop and flip and flop is a fish.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is just Today's creation, a big budget national jingle for Jell-O pudding. Here's the concept.
So what happens is you close the door, and all of a sudden the entire refrigerator comes to life. Okay.
And just, you know, because nobody knows what happens behind a closed refrigerator door.
Right. Kids Isn't that like a science or something?
The pudding comes alive.
It's just emotional. What you feel would be funny and cute.
So have fun.
That entire session lasted 10 minutes, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And seemed sort of vague in terms of what they wanted you to do.
Well, that's good.
It's good? It's better that way?
I think so. Yeah, it gives you a little more creative freedom.
And what's the timetable?
No, what they say they need it tomorrow. Good? No,
Here we go. Stand by for recording.
How long will it take you to get that done?
I don't know, about 2 hours.
Sink it slowly, holy moly, talkie chocolate, never stop it.
Better not take much longer than that, because in the next 48 hours, they have to finish Jell-O.
Jell-O.
Arrange, sing, and produce a New Orleans-style Coke classic. Record a bluesy Diet Coke.
This move here, now the animator liked the fact that Ray kicked his leg up, because that's one of Ray Charles's signatures. And this is the candy being blown away.
That's sweet.
So that's what you made out of the film we were looking at there.
Right, it's about 5.5 months worth of work.
5.5 months.
Meet the Noid.
Yeah, that's good.
The star of Domino's pizza commercials.
The first thing is, I thought the Noid was a little clay character.
I guess you've noticed in walking around, they always shoot reference footage, which gives them the character's personality. That's what I do.
Who makes pizzas? Oh.
I provide the movements and the extreme characterization and vocalization.
Can you make that pinwheel thing happen?
Yeah. Can your eyes go around like this?
That's funny, Dave. It's entertaining. Does it sell pizzas?
Oh, absolutely. Like crazy, as a matter of fact.
I think that good feeling that you get from a funny, enjoyable spot carries over into being good advertising.
Everyone dreams of making it big, even raisins. And the big dream shared by every raisin is to be big enough for Post Raisin Bran.
You never know. You can't create a phenomenon.
Kind of eased her out, and that was it.
2-year-old Mark Hiesman was brought here to Harbor Medical Center in critical condition, where he was later upgraded to satisfactory. His sister, 3-year-old Amber, remains at Martin Luther King Medical Center in serious condition. The Munns were the most seriously injured of the children. Ironically, they were also the driver's cousins. But their cousin shouldn't have been driving. Police say she is 17 and doesn't have a license. She told detectives she borrowed the keys from her mother to sit in the car, then decided to take it around the block. Coming back to the yard where her cousins were playing, the skid marks show she lost control. But
after your X-rated pasts, first we have to take another break. We'll be right back.
Highlight your life with your own shining light. Highlight your hair with what's naturally there.
There and there, natural highlights, Helsa highlights. Yours with Helsa Swedish Botanical Shampoo. Marigold for blondes, ginger root for redheads, walnut leaves for brunettes.
Highlight your life.
Bring out your own natural highlights with Helsa shampoos and conditioners. There and there.
Here's some news that's going to change the world. U.S. Sprint announces the world's first international long-distance sale. Sign up now and save as much as 10 to 34% for 3 full months. If you make international calls, this sale can make all the difference in the world. So call now and save during U.S. Sprint's international long-distance sale.
Felony that if somebody dies, they're all going to be charged with murder. So really, they're breaking some new ground here, saying that
test case.
In effect, they're saying this is all a big conspiracy, and everybody was setting it up for what actually happened.
Harvey, the drug crime matrix is obviously a big concern for the district attorney. Did he mention to you any response to yesterday's House of Representatives bill against drugs?
No, he didn't. What he did today really just stands on its own. He's, I think, today concentrating on what appears to be a rather unique case.
Thank you, Harvey. Sure. Appreciate it. Michael Deaver will not be going to jail for lying to Congress. The former Reagan aide was sentenced today, and he got a break. 3 years probation and a $100,000 fine. He was convicted last December of lying to a congressional panel and a grand jury, probing influence peddling charges which had been lodged against him.
Well, I think it was a very fair sentence.
The officers are accused of beating 6 men at a party last May. The incident was captured on home video, as you saw here yesterday. And now Jose Sanders reports the district attorney wants to take a look at the case.
The pictures taken with a home video camera were both shocking and dramatic. 2 Torrance police officers shown clearly, one apparently administering a chokehold on a 20-year-old man while his partner beats him repeatedly with a baton, even after the man became unconscious. Since the tape became public yesterday, the officers, identified as Jim Lynch and Ross Bartlett, have been reassigned to desk duty. And the Torrance police today asked the DA's office to investigate the May 15th incident.
That could involve simple charges of assault or battery, or Section 149 of the Penal Code, which involves assault under color of authority, which has potential felony or misdemeanor alternatives.
The officers had been called to break up a loud party.
That Fred Merkel was out. Merkel claimed he had veered off towards the clubhouse, but upon hearing the commotion around second, he raced back to tag the bag before Evers did. He would even swear an affidavit to that fact. The umps didn't even question him. O'Day nullified the Giants' winning run, called the game a 1-1 tie. The next day, Merkel was vilified in the newspapers. And when the Cubs and Giants ended the season tied for first, and the pennant was to be decided by a replay of the Merkel game, and when the Giants lost, Fred Merkel became Bonehead. Bonehead he remained. His career lasted another 17 seasons. His life lasted another 48 years. Always Bonehead in the ballparks, on the streets, from his opponents, from his teammates. Bonehead. A moment can tarnish a lifetime.
Joining us now here in the studio is Christy Mathewson, the great pitcher of the New York Giants from most of Fred Merkel's career. And you were there. Did he touch second base or did he not?
Well, he did. However, in all truthfulness, I've got to say that it didn't happen until much later when all the fans had actually left the ballpark. But the thing that people fail to remember about the whole incident is that Fred Merkel did nothing out of the ordinary that day. In fact, it had been in vogue all around the circuit all season to do what he did, which was just go to...
Celebration! It's Waterbed Gallery's 11th birthday sale going on right now.
It's once-a-year savings on a good night's sleep.
So what are you waiting for?
Come in, see for yourself how much better waterbeds are today at Waterbed Gallery.
You've never felt comfort and support like this before.
And remember, at Waterbed Gallery, you can enjoy your new waterbed tonight and forget about the payments till next year.
It's all part of Waterbed Gallery's 11th birthday sale going on right now.
Make it a Waterbed Gallery night. A Waterbed Gallery night.
Today, 18 million eat this as bread. 55 million eat this. 240 million eat this. But only 8 million eat this as bread. These people produce more safe cars and blonde beauties. They invented the Nobel Prize and the zipper. They also play better tennis, and they watch less television. That's the Swedish way. Wasa crisp bread. You can have it in America.
The Rams battle the Giants Sunday at 1 on Channel 2.
Hi, I'm Edie Magnus. Tonight on USA Today, our cover story, the presidential debate, and the 3 college kids who made it happen.
If we were really lucky, we would have a seat.
I'm Kenneth Walker. In money, the EPA's list of fuel-efficient cars, but it might not be as cheap as you think.
Although you may save in fuel by buying a small car, you'll...
Candid, some mothers don't want their daughters to read it. All of that and more tonight on USA Today.
Our cover story tonight from the USA section, Sunday's great debate between George Bush and Michael Dukakis. Presidential debates are like heavyweight championship fights. The pressure couldn't be greater, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Like prize fighters, Bush and Dukakis train and are coached for the big event. Tonight, 2 of the country's top political coaches tell us what they'd be telling the candidates.
He's toying with his man.
I think this is going to be a debate in which the question of who won or lost is going to be very important. If I were advising George Bush, I think I would say to George Bush, look, forget that you're talking to 80 or 90 million people. Talk to the camera as though you are talking to 1 or 2 people in their home.
Regrettably, that for my guy, he goes into this debate with very high expectations for his performance. If he comes off as overly studious, he can lose this debate.
Just don't let that bastard breathe.
Dukakis has got to lighten up. He's got to be, there is a kind of constricted Dukakis, I think, sometimes in front of the microphone. It almost looks like his underwear is too tight or something.
I think he needs to show a sense of humor. I think he can't be afraid to laugh a little bit at himself or maybe poke a little fun at Bush.
Maybe he should open the debate by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I mean, you know, something.
The good thing about Dukakis is that he doesn't need months and months of briefing to get up to speed on the issues. I think Bush may need a little more of that.
Bush has to be careful that he is not overcoached and over-prepared and doesn't leave his game in the locker room.
The toughest thing about coaching is to have that candidate at the peak of his performance on the day of the debate.
If you are overcoached and it doesn't happen just the way they told you it was going to happen, it can be more disconcerting than if you had no coaching at all.
So now that we've heard some advice for the candidates, let's back up a moment to answer another question. Why is this all-important first debate at Wake Forest University? The three people responsible for securing this political prize join us now from Wake Forest, and they are from left to right, Mike Smith, Beth Dawson, and Scott Dubois. Thanks to all three of you for joining us.
Thank you.
Mike, how did you make the pitch, and how did you get the debate at Wake Forest?
We made a presentation to our university president and executive council, and began putting together an effort and working together to see what we could put together. Then we went to Washington and showed them a video that we had prepared and a brochure.
Well, now, do you all get college credit for setting up a presidential debate?
I wish we
No,
did.
we did. No.
We don't.
Unfortunately not, but it's the experience.
Or, if we were really lucky, we would have a seat.
You all three have become media celebrities these past few days. Are you enjoying it?
It's overwhelming.
It is very
different.
overwhelming. It's humbling.
So is the Palisades Energy Project. It does not involve offshore drilling. It's not on the beach. It's inland on the other side of a major highway, and it won't even look like a drilling site. The Palisades Inland Energy Project is among the most thoroughly reviewed in history, approved as safe, environmentally sound by the City Council, the Board of Referred Powers, the Coastal Commission, and unanimously by the State Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. Remember the 1970s, the oil boycott? Today, our economy can still be held hostage to foreign oil. The Palisades Inland Energy Project can help change that.
And it will provide up to $275 million in earmarked royalties for our schools and to hire new police without new taxes.
20 years ago, the city asked Occidental for its help. An agreement was made that led to the Palisades Inland Energy Project. The issue now comes down to two basic principles: keeping your word and producing the energy we need while protecting our environment. Yes on Proposition P, for police, to protect the bay, and to produce energy.
Our inquiry tonight, Sassy Magazine. Teens love it, the moral majority hates it, and some advertisers have pulled ads. Well, we'll talk about the controversy tonight, but first, we want to find out why Sassy has tripled its readership since March. We start our story as they put together this month's issue, from fashion to an article on virginity and why it's cool to keep it.
Yep, very good.
I mean, I think virgins are cool is good. I wonder if it should be why virgins are cool.
Do we want to suggest any categories now that we think should definitely be in?
We have, but my best friend lost it.
At a pajama party in Minneapolis, the magazine of choice is Sassy.
What magazine is that? Sassy.
The average Sassy reader is 16, and the writers are not much older.
Oh. Johnny Depp is going out with who?
No, he's pictured with her. Now, every time the man is pictured with someone doesn't mean he's going out with her.
In their early 20s, the Sassy writers are young enough to truly care about teen problems, from Johnny Depp to sibling rivalry.
His wives just beat each other up.
The articles are frank and sassy, and some, like this one on boys' body parts, can be a little unnerving if you grew up in a time when cuticle maintenance was considered a big issue.
It still is a big issue, I think, yeah.
It's not the biggest. Not definitely not the biggest.
No, but I think that's the thing. I mean, I think some of the issues are exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that teenagers are, they're an odd breed because they're concerned now about things like AIDS and threat of nuclear war, and those things concern them, but they're also concerned about their cuticles.
Oh, Molly, you gotta see something. Most of Sassy's readers are here in the heartland. These sophomores go to Washburn High. They don't know why we've come to their slumber party, but in fact, we found out their favorite magazine is Sassy, because the frank articles and advice columns answer questions no one else will.
Read about what that column is.
I also saw in one of those columns a letter from a girl whose dad was sexually abusing her. She was having sex with her
Yeah,
dad.
that's something that you'd want to read about, you know.
You would?
Yeah,
it's just
It's good
interesting.
to know that stuff. You never know. I mean, you might know somebody that will have problems like that.
Helps you
And-
deal
On
with it.
Sassy, they had an article on a girl who had an abortion, and she like described it and stuff. It was really scary, you know, and it totally made you think about it.
These girls bear out the sassy philosophy that those who are ready for information about, say, sexuality will eagerly seek it out. Those who aren't won't even be able to read it.
Sweater and shoes.
Oh, I can't read it. You don't expect to hear this at all.
You don't want to read it?
I don't know. I just feel embarrassed.
Well, you
you
feel
know?
uncomfortable,
Yeah.
kinda.
Yeah, you don't.
You're just
it's
like,
not like,
oh, please, censor
look what
it.
I'm reading.
To understand sassy success is to know something about today's teens. At 15, these girls worry they can't compete with images of 11-year-old models. They ask, where are the overweight girls, the ones with braces? But then again, magazines let them fantasize.
You've looked through magazines like, oh, this is my dream book or whatever, you know?
But on the other hand, Andrew, do you ever look at it and think, I can't possibly match up to this?
Oh, yeah, I've thought that many times.
Do you ever feel totally good about yourself and comfortable with yourself?
No.
Once in a blue moon.
They say Sassy lets them know they're not alone in their insecurities, and when they think they are, it becomes someone to turn to.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of a thing that you can do by yourself, and you don't have to tell other people that you're reading this article about virginity.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like a quiet friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And one that won't, you know, say anything.
Well, kids may love it, but Jerry Falwell's been leading a letter-writing campaign against Sassy. Recently, Knoxell and Maybelline pulled their ads because of what they called inappropriate content. And parents like Bonnie Fleming of Wabash, Indiana, have made individual protests. Bonnie joins us now from Fort Wayne, Indiana. Thank you, Bonnie. And I know that you first became aware of Sassy when a flyer came to your house. What was your first reaction?
I thought the envelope, the package was attractive. And then I opened it and read the contents, and I became greatly concerned.
You know, you did go to a grocery store and have the magazine pulled, and the question is, if you don't want your daughter to read it, why censor other kids who, like the kids we met, may need that advice?
We need to draw some lines, and we need to have some guidelines for teenagers across America, not just my daughter.
What are some of the things? I know you're uncomfortable talking about some of them, but what are some of the things that you objected to seeing in these magazines?
Okay, there are a lot of sexually explicit items in the magazine, and I know in the previous clip you've talked about the truth about boys' bodies, and I feel that some of the information in that article is not educational, but hypes sexuality. There's an article in one of the features about kissing, and a lot of the items presented in that article were not items of education, but hype sexuality.
Well, Bonnie, whether or not people agree with you on the stand you've taken on Sassy, I know that they appreciate the fact that you do care about your child, and thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us about it.
Thank you, Robin. Sixth jumper in the order. And all he did to start out the competition was break the 20-year-old Olympic record of Viktor Saneyev of the Soviet Union, set at altitude in Mexico City with a jump of 57 feet 2 inches. This is a powerful jumper. Hits the board very nicely. There is almost no wind in the stadium, by the way. Really stretches the first hop out. Tremendous step, great arm action. And look at that jump technique. He lost a lot of distance by dropping his right arm back into the pit. That might have been a much further jump. This is a very powerful athlete. His technique is a little bit wild. And the Soviets are very, very technically oriented in the triple jump. This man is just a powerhouse. 57 feet 2 inches, a new Olympic record on the very first round. This event is shaping up to be very much like that of the shot put yesterday. Now, again, first round jumper, Oleg Kotsenko of the Soviet Union. Always a good jumper, usually inside the Eastern Bloc. But on his first jump, he is chasing his countrymate and jumps 57 feet a quarter inch and is just slightly behind his teammate Kovalenko. Now, the world champion Christo Markov of Bulgaria challenged Willie Banks' world record at the World Championships last year. He is the favorite in this event. Again, a first round jump. almost hits the pit on his step phase. 57 feet, 9.5 inches on his very first jump. He upped the ante plenty. Again, this is first round action. Willie Banks had a foul, and these three athletes have really heated up the competition. Again, a very strong athlete. We've always thought he should cut his hair. Last year, we feel 2 inches behind the world record. If he had a haircut, he probably would have broken the world record. Again, hitting the board very well. Outstanding hop, really stretches out the step. Now look how close he lands to the pit on this step. Just 1.5 or 2 feet, and really stretches it out into the sand. An outstanding jump. Again, Ben Johnson and Carl Lewis will be coming up in the men's 100 meters later on. Let's go back to Bryant Gumbel.
Okay, Dwight Stones, thank you. As we move up on 11 o'clock at night on the East Coast, I know you're getting sleepy, but hang on because we've got that 100-meter final coming up. Ben Johnson against Carl Lewis. You're going to see it right here as our coverage of the games of the 24th Olympiad continue after this brief...
Developed in the event. It is not a large headwind, but if you'll remember Indianapolis, they were jumping with a gigantic tailwind and really a little tentative on the runway. He dropped his arms at the board a bit. He did get a legal jump, 55 feet, 10.5 inches, which should be good enough to get him into the final 3 jumps, even though he does have a 3rd round jump left. But the Soviets and the Bulgarian have really upped the ante, and Willie has got to get back into it. He's running down the runway, but he looks a little casual, a little tentative. He'll drop his arms just a little bit before the board because he feels he's going to go over, and he was actually behind the board. So he lost about 8 inches right there at the start. His technique is a little bit casual, a little bit rough right now. I think he's just glad to now have a legal jump. He's jumping better than he did 4 years ago at the Olympic Games in Los Angeles. He knows that he has the kind of jumps in him to challenge the top 3 at this point. But he just has to get comfortable with his technique, not worry about the headwind, get the fact that the runway is slower than Indianapolis out of his head, and he should be fine.
Meanwhile, the countdown continues to 1:30 Seoul time for the finals of the men's 100 meters.
And I think Carl Lewis and Ben Johnson are going through their final warm-up rituals, and it really is a ritual. He's out. This is a picture from out on the back practice track, and the good athletes will go through the same warm-up each time they run, even in training. In training, they'll go warm up the same way before they take their sprints. In these rounds into the final, they warm up the same way.
We await the final of the men's 1-9. 995, 1968, Mexico City. And the American record, Calvin Smith and Carl Lewis at 993. Carl Lewis is in lane 3. Linford Christie of Great Britain is in lane 4. Calvin Smith of the United States is in lane 5. There are those who think that if Ben and Carl start looking at each other, that Calvin will slip in and win the gold. Ben Johnson is in lane 6. He's from Canada. Desai Williams, also from Canada, is in lane 7. And Dennis Mitchell of the United States.
차려.
And it's a fair start. And it is Raymond Stewart with a start. It is Ben Johnson with a start. Can Carl catch him? No! It's Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson does it again. Unbelievable! 9-7-9!
Absolutely incredible! What a start! That was the best start of Ben Johnson's life.
Wind 1.1. That's legal.
New world record. Incredible. Charlie, I think Carl Lewis was absolutely flabbergasted to see Ben Johnson that far ahead.
Dave Sim.
How did you see the race, Carl? Well, I pressed a little out of the blocks, Dave, and I just don't feel it was the best race I ran here. The only thing I have to say is that, you know, I talked to my mother about it last night, and she had a dream 2 nights ago that my father just said, I'm all right, and that's all I feel. I gave it my best shot, and the thing to do is go into the next races.
Did you feel Ben at all? Did you feel his explosive start?
Well, no, I didn't see him until about 60 or 70 meters down the tape. He must have really caught a flyer because he was way out again, just like Rome. But, you know, like I said, I think I could have run better.
Do you think that you don't think you lost magnificently, as you stated that was a possibility if you did lose earlier before this race?
Well, I just tried to run the best race I could, and I'm pleased with my race.
All right. Congratulations. Thanks a lot.
Oh, the waiting is over. The questions have been answered. A new world record for Ben Johnson of Canada. And we'll be back to Olympic Stadium in just a moment.
It was perfect. That probably is the best 100 meters ever run, technically, start to finish. Before, we were always worried about how he finished. We never worried about his start. Well, standard, perfect start for Ben Johnson. Up, away, but he is just away from everybody. The race is over right here. From 50 meters in, he still keeps going. At the start, you can see him jump up. He's at full speed, so much quicker than anyone else in the race. And now he's just down the track. We were worried not about here. We knew he'd be ahead here, but not so far. Look how far ahead he is. He's got 3 meters on Carl Lewis, and I think Carl could see him at this point. Then from 50 meters on in, I think in the heats he was pulling back intentionally because he had another gear there that we have not seen. Even last year we did not see this when he set the world record. He just kept accelerating all the way through the tape, which he's never done before. This is the best 100 meters I have ever seen.
And now isolate on Carl Lewis.
Carl had a good start. He didn't have a great start, but Carl never starts that well. He's out even, and that's all he can hope for. Linford Christie on his right, who eventually finishes third. But Carl is running well, but he's waiting for that 50 meters to really look. He looked over. He looked. He saw he didn't see Ben. He knew he was there. You could see that turn of the head. Gets to 50. He looks at him again. Gets to 50 meters. Really starts to accelerate. Right here, I think. Look, he looked again and then saw he really had to try to catch him, but knew it was too late. 3 looks in that race by Carl Lewis.
As you take a look at the head-on shot, realize what you are watching. Possibly the greatest field ever assembled for the finals of an Olympics.
Absolutely.
Blown wide open by Ben Johnson, and for the first time in history, 4 men under 10 seconds.
There's Carl's first look. Goes down a little bit. Second look. Goes down. Third look. He knows it's gone.
What was so impressive about this race also in Rome when Ben Johnson set the world record there, and you can see it here. There is the start. You notice over in lane 2 that Raymond Stewart also got a good start, but that was the last time you saw him because all eyes then went to Ben Johnson, to Cy Williams as he did in the semifinals. Also with a good start, just showing you the great start that Ben Johnson had. But they could not close any of the gap on him at all. Once that the margin was set, it stayed, and possibly he gained just a little, so he did not slow down at all in the last 20 meters of the race.
Ben is up. Carl is up. running well again, but just not as well as he was in the heats or the semifinal. He really wasn't. He was even with everyone. And then when he wants to go to the other gear, he expects to pass everybody. Well, he pulls away, but this is where you start to strain. You see, you're too far behind. You start to strain. You never catch up.
And the reaction of his mother, Evelyn Lewis, who we have lines, and a great race. Oh, now we can take that deep breath. United States, this is Heat 3 in the quarterfinals. Lawrence Griffith Joyner here is in lane 5. And she has the hood on, and she's got another good start. Kondratyeva of the Soviet Union is running behind her, but here comes Flojo answering Evelyn Ashford the time. 10:62, another Olympic record.
The win's legal.
This may go down as one of the greatest days in the history of sprinting.
We got Florence.
I like to think Florence just gave a little bigger push there, answering Evelyn Ashford. Florence runs so well, wire to wire. She runs better, really, than any other sprinter wire to wire, except maybe Ben Johnson, now that we've seen his perfect race so far. But she has technically a great start, doesn't get up too soon, but gets into sprinting position very, very quickly. She's out in front very fast.
Down today.
Another world record. You beat a terrific field. Did you think you could run this fast?
Here are the results. Flojo's 10:62. That is a new Olympic record. A year ago, it would have been a new world record. Some people doubted her times at the Olympic trials in Indianapolis. Well, Flojo has made believer Amparo Caicedo. Now, there have been 2 false starts, 1 charge to Gurr in 6, 1 charge to Williams in 7. Now, should either of those runners be charged with another false start, they will be eliminated as we look at Evelyn Ashford. And this time it is a fair start. Evelyn Ashford is in lane 5, and Gurr is right next to her. And they begin now to pull away. It is Ashford leading Gurr. It is Ashford. And then over in lane 3 is Pomosnikova. And then Marlies Gurr. The time, 10:88. Is that Nellie Coleman that finished third? Nellie Coleman was 4th. The top 4 will move through to the semifinals. Here's a look at the start.
And if 10:88 holds up, I think that ties the Olympic record. So Evelyn Ashford is sending a signal to Florence Griffith Joyner. She is ready to run hard in the finals, because it didn't seem to me that she really went all out. It was a very controlled race all the way through. If I were to estimate effort, I would say 90 to 95%. She gets a good start. She's out even with everyone else, and a little more aggressive than we saw her in her first race. So she's building momentum. She's getting a little faster and a little faster with each race. Technically, she's so sound. Marlies Gurr on her left is straining. Evelyn is knowing how to relax. She just relaxes when going fast, runs right through the tape. Evelyn looks very, very good.
And that time, 10:88, does tie the Olympic record, the 8. And so Evelyn moves safely through to the semifinals. And the showdown continues in the women's 100, and it's setting up just like the men. So tomorrow is going to be a great day here at Olympic Stadium. The gold going to Ben Johnson, and you are looking here at the greatest sprinter the world has ever seen. He has set new standards for everyone.
Médaille d'argent.
The silver medalist, Carl Lewis, USA.
And now the silver medal for Carl Lewis.
Son médaille. Médaille de bronze.
The bronze medalist, Linford Christie, Great Britain.
And the bronze medal to Linford Christie of Great Britain. And this event drawing the largest crowd that we have seen here in Olympic Stadium since the opening ceremony.
L'hymne national du Canada.
The national anthem of Canada.
이상으로 남자 100m 경기에 대한 시상식을 마치겠습니다.
Little false start off of the medal stand. They then go back up for more celebration. The gold medal to Ben Johnson, a new world record, 9.79. Now we have action in the triple jump to Whitestone.
Charlie, the triple jump started off very, very hot. The first round, the Olympic record was broken twice. Christo Markov took a huge lead, and then we were plagued by about 25 fouls in the course of the next 5 rounds. This is the final round. Willie Banks is out of it. He's out of the medals. This is Charlie Simpkins of the United States. This is a man you never count out until he has taken his full complement of jumps. You never know what this man can do. And that's by far the best jump he had in the entire competition, way over his previous best. In fact, he only had one legal jump aside from that in the entire competition. 3 fouls and a pass. Let's see him on the runway. Charlie Simpkins has said by Willie Banks, maybe the greatest talent ever in the event if he ever learned how to jump, if he ever learned how to compete in conditions like these. Of course, he's never been in the Olympic Games before. This is a reasonably good technical jump, but the kind of jump you'd like to see in his first or second round, not in the last round. Very thin, very light, but extremely strong. Doesn't use his arms as effectively as he could off the board, but still he's getting very good height. Nice technique on this jump. It's just too late in the competition to make it the distance. He lost to the Soviets and the Bulgarian. His distance is 56.8 3/4, which moved him into 5th place, and unfortunately out of the medals. Charlie?
Thank you, Dwight, and our coverage of the games of the 24th Olympiad here in Seoul, Korea will continue in just a moment.
Round 2:19 in the 800. Jackie Joyner-Kersey's desire is to go into the 800 not having to run very fast, not having to go all out if she can prevent that situation. You can see the knee heavily taped. This was her first throw in the javelin. The first line on the field is 50 meters. That's the 164-foot area she needs to get to. You can see that was well short of that. 145 feet 6 inches. Not a disaster. It's a starting point. She's probably testing the knee a little bit. It's heavily taped, not because she is severely injured at this point, but in order to prevent a more severe injury. One of the problems that Jackie has in this event is she does not block properly with the left side of her body, the left leg. If she is able to get her left leg in right position, she can get the kind of throw she needs to run a leisurely 800 for the world record. We'll come back a little bit later, but right now let's go to javelin. The slower she can run in the 800 and still break the world record. Unless she falls down or is hit by a plane, she's going to win this competition. Now it's just a matter of Jackie against her own world record. This was her second round throw in the javelin. And an improvement over her first throw. She got up to 149 feet 9 inches. According to our statistician, Dr. Zarnowski, she has a meter and 30 up on her previous throw, and that put her 97 points behind her world record pace from her first throw. She still has one more throw to go. She can run in the neighborhood of just under 2 minutes 14 seconds for the 800, which is not totally comfortable for Jackie, but she only ran 2:20 in Indianapolis when she set the previous world record. If she can get closer to that 50-meter line in her third throw in the javelin, she can run a very leisurely 2:16, 2:17 in the 800, which I'm sure she would prefer, and she can still break the world record.
What's the fastest that she can run in the 800?
She has run under 2:10. But I'm sure she wouldn't like to have to run that kind of a time here. She'd like to stroll and maybe be in a little bit better shape after the race than she was in Indianapolis.
All right, and speaking of 800 meters, we now move to the men's 800 meters. This is second round, heat 3. And there is Steve Cram of Great Britain. And in this heat also is Saeed Awida. Now, the last time that Cram and Awida met was on July the 16th, 1985, 3+ years ago. It was in Nice, and Cram just edged Awida. Both broke the world record at 1,500 meters. Now, Saeed Awida and Cram both going for the double, 800 and 1,500. There has been a little speculation that Saeed Awida might try to go for a triple with the 5,000, but nobody really believes that. But he might try it. Saeed Awida in lane 1. Nixon, Kipru Rutich is in 2. Babakar Niang in 3, Slobodan Popovic is in 4. Then it is Tomas Teresa, Robin von Helden, Steve Cram is in 7, and Pablo Skyla is outside in lane 8. Now this second round heat, the top 4 finishers will move through to the semifinals.
Saeed Awida really has to be the favorite for the gold medal at 800 meters because he's beaten everyone in the world this year coming into the Olympics, but he hasn't had the best time. He still has the bandage on his left hamstring, so we'll have to just see how well he runs.
Also, there are reports that he had an upset stomach, wasn't able to train for 4 or 5 days, and the patch on the hamstring. But yet he did not use it as an excuse. He said, I still can run at 100%. That's just part of the fact he had to miss a little training, perhaps to make the challenge a little larger.
But he seems to do this before every big meet. Last year he got spiked in the World Championships. He showed up for the championship race with a big bandage on his leg, on his shin. Wasn't a factor. But right now he's running at the back of the pack.
Meanwhile, Steve Cram is running in third. In first is Slobodan Popovic, and then is Pablo Skyla and Robin von Helden also challenging in that area, and Cram very confidently now moving up to second place.
One thing we have to remember here as we watch Saida Wida go around on the first turn, into the first turn, is that he is dropping down in distance. He can also run 5,000 meters, but this is really the low part of his range, as with Steve Cram. Steve Cram is an 800, 1,500 meter runner, so you wouldn't expect them to be at the front after the first lap.
And there goes Saida Wida on the outside. Everybody else is laboring, and he just seems to have that extra gear, puts it into overdrive, and just slides right up among the leaders. So there is Cram, who is running second. And Slobodan Popovic is running first. Nixon Kiprotich is now in second. Cram is in third. Again, the top 4 finishers through to the semifinal. Here comes Saida Wida on the outside. Cram did a look check to the inside. Looked the wrong way, and Saida Wida's past him. Now Cram's got to get going. It's the top 4. Cram is not going to make it, and he is slowing down. He's not going to make it on time. He is out of it.
And a major, major surprise. This is the first big surprise in the men's running in this Olympics. Steve Cram maybe has a chance to get in on time, but it's very unlikely. He just literally ran out of energy on the straightaway.
Cram, a disappointment at the World Championships in Rome. He was going to make up for it this year in the Olympic Games, and he is out in the 800, has the 15 to come.
And he just took a look coming into the home straight. That was an amateurish mistake. When you get on the home stretch in the Olympics, you don't look left or right. You just head for the finish line. He was trying to finesse his way to the finish, and it backfired on him. Although Saida Wida here looks like he's still the favorite, along with Johnny Gray now for the Olympic gold.
Moving through, Saida Wida, Slobodan Popovic, Babakar Niang, Nixon, Kiprotich. Those 4 moving through to the semifinals. In the other heats, Cruz made it through, Johnny Gray made it through, Ehring is through, and McKean, they also make it through. So they also have qualified, and this is the men's 800 meters. We will continue with our coverage of track and field in a moment.
Paul insists that if he would, he'd break the world record. He's so powerful and has such excellent technique. Not only gets great distance, but great height off the board, excellent through the middle of the jump. Very close to the end of the runway when he actually starts the jump phase. And that was the gold medal jump. But the drama built. Many fouls throughout the middle of the competition. And then in the final frame, the 6th jump, Igor Lepshin of the Soviet Union came down and broke the heart of one of his teammates with this jump to take the silver medal, 57 feet, 5 3/4 inches. This was a totally Eastern Bloc affair. Igor Lepshin, a little bit taller than some of the other Soviet Bloc jumpers, saved his best for last, struggling through the competition, hits the board rather well. Also excellent technique. He's a little lazy with the right arm, but very good through the middle phase, and an excellent jump on the 6th round to get the silver medal. But Krista Markov, he's done it all now, and he's only 23 years old. Expect to see this gentleman in 4 more years. The Americans try very hard, but end up in 5th and 6th place. Markov, the gold medal, Lepshin, the silver, and Kovalenko, the bronze medal.
And next up here in the Olympic Stadium, the semifinals in the men's 400-meter hurdles. And a look at Edwin Moses of the United States is in 3. Joseph Maratim of Kenya is in 4. Kevin Young of the United States is in 5. Chris Akabusi of Great Britain is in 6. John Graham of Canada is 5.
I think it's going to be very interesting.
The top 4 will move through to the finals. Here is Harold Schmidt of West Germany. He is in lane 1.
But Harold's been having a lot of trouble recently and may not even be the best intermediate hurdler in his country anymore. But he beat Edwin last in 1977.
A note to keep in mind, though, in both heats, from a time standpoint, the top 4 finishers are seeded. Lanes 3, 4, 5, and 6, they have a draw for those inside lanes. The 4 finalists with the worst times are seeded at 1, 2, 7, and 8.
And Edwin's out very fast, and Harold Schmidt went out pretty fast, too, but Edwin may be ahead at this point. Let's see, at 200 mark. Yes, he is. He's the first over the hurdle at the 200 mark.
A total of 10 flights of hurdles, and Edwin Moses running very smoothly.
And Kevin Young coming along, too. Here's Kevin Young. Is Edwin going to lose a race in order to qualify, or is he going to win this one? No, he's going all out.
And it is the United States, 1 and 2, Edwin Moses and Kevin Young. It is Moses, Young, Schmidt qualifies in lane 1, and Chris Alcabusi of Great Britain also moves through to the final.
Edwin Moses ran all out in this race, 47.89 unofficially. That's pretty close to world record. He holds the world record at 47.02. He and Kevin Young were together coming off the last hurdle onto the straightaway. Then with 2 more hurdles to go, Evan poured it on. His technique is so good. Very, very good. You can see he's a little bit ahead now, and he doesn't ease off.
His time, 47.89, fastest qualifying ever in this event. We'll be back in a moment. Bob Costas will be visiting.
Problem, a jammed knee. She jumped well under her best, 87 points behind the world record, and she had to tape her knee for the shot put, the 3rd event. She got some points back there, and she realized that she could use the knee without having it compromise her performance. But at that point, she was 76 points behind the world record pace. Then the 200, the true test. She's a good sprinter now, and she ended up turning in the 2nd best time ever in a heptathlon 200 meters and ended the day only 103 points behind her world record pace. Then the therapist took over, keeping her back loose, keeping her knee loose. The biggest thing she was to have to fight is the pain overnight. And we would see the next day that in her long jump, her favorite event, her best event, that she had overcome that pain. She came out and took 1 jump only, 23 feet, 10 1/4 inches, a new Olympic record for the long jump, and right back in the hunt. Jackie Joyner Kersey. In fact, her best 10 times are right about that average, so well within her capability.
This is a live shot of Jackie Joyner. Do you hold back in the Olympics? Do you just, try and do Frank Shorter? Do you just try and hit a certain point, or do you just go as quickly as you ever could go?
Well, I sense from hearing Bob Kersey talk to Jackie that she doesn't like the 800, and it's almost as if he's rewarding her with an easy 800 if she gets through all the other events very, very well. Well, now he said to her, in essence, boy, you didn't do that well. You're
2 minutes, 13:67. That is the magic number. Anything faster than that, and she will have the new world record. And the way that she's performing, Frank Shorter, the gold is hers.
Yes, but
now is whether or not she gets the record.
Games,
and we have to remember.
We had a tape. I forced her tape it.
We're dropping in on an interview.
Overextending it, but she wanted to try to go a little more in javelin, so she took the tape off. She overpulled the throw, though. But I mean, she can go 2 laps around this track and go 2:13 with the pain. This is for an Olympic championship. It's for gold medals, for a world record, and you don't hold back now.
I think that really says it all.
Did you notice that Bobby is not going to be running around the track twice in 2:13 with pain?
I think what we have to remember here is that Jackie is a sprinter. She is not really a middle distance runner. And so, as you pointed out, Dwight, she may get caught up in the first lap going too fast, because she can run the first lap in 58, 59, 60 seconds, but she's not a middle distance runner, so she may not be able to carry that fast a first lap around. She's going to have to be very, very, very careful not to go faster than about 62 seconds.
And the problem with this heat is that it's full of people who can run around 2:05 and better, and she's going to have to go out in, like you said, 64, 65 seconds. Natalia Shubankova of the Soviet Union, who is currently 4th and is a 2:03 800-meter runner, is in lane 1. Cindy Greiner of the U.S., who Jackie may key off of or may have help her pace through the first quarter mile. Anki Bämer of East Germany is the woman that is currently in 3rd place and must beat her teammate, Sabine Jahn of East Germany, by 5 seconds to take the silver. and it just so happens that Beymer is 5 seconds better in the 800 than Jan. Remagia Sabloskayat, Jackie Joyner-Kersee, Ines Schultz, but obviously the race that we're looking at is Jackie Joyner-Kersee. Can she run better than 2:13.67? And the question you asked, Charlie, how much better should she run? Should she just go for it? This is the Olympic Games.
But as you mentioned in the conversation while we were away, yes, but she has other Olympic Games and other championships. So what you want to do is you want to get the world record, but leave yourself a little margin to work with.
Also, don't cross the finish line the way she did in Indianapolis, ready to collapse.
Yeah. Now, a caution about the time. The clock that you will see will stop when the lead runner crosses the finish line. That will not be Jackie Joyner-Kersee. We will have separate clocks on her, and we will be relating those times to you. Again, the magic number is 2:13.67 for the world record.
Come on, Jackie, show them you're the best. You can run this 800 meters. You got to. Come on, Jackie! Add an Olympic champion to that, Jackie, and another world record. Come on! Get in your rhythm, Jackie! Come on! Come on, Jackie. Come on, Jackie.
He's moving up a little on the pace.
Well, it should be remembered that last year in Rome, to get the world record, she needed to run 2:14. Totally fell asleep in the second lap, came in 2:16, lost the record, and Jane Frederick, who all of us were keying on for the bronze, she ran 2:13. If Jane can run 2:13, Jackie certainly can if she'll just stay in contact with the right person. She looked well within herself in the middle of the pack, and people who run much faster than she does she's still in contact with, so she is in a good spot. Rome last year probably taught her something very important that will benefit her here. 63-second first lap, even a little bit faster perhaps than she needed, but not so fast that she'll completely tie up the last lap as she did in Los Angeles, for example, where she had an injury that debilitated her enough that she lost the gold medal by 5 points. The last time, by the way, that she lost a heptathlon.
Frank, how is she running?
She looks good. I've been watching to see how much she slowed down. She was 30 seconds at 200 meters, 33 seconds for the next 200 meters. She's holding on well. It's the last 200 meters that really matter, because that's when she's in an oxygen debt. That's when she's really running out of energy. We'll see. She's just holding on, but she's not losing form yet.
Let the chosen move! Move! Move with them!
The magic number is 2:13.67. Again, this clock will stop when the first runner crosses the finish line.
I think she's got it.
2, 3.
She's definitely got
4,
it.
5, 6, 7, 8. Yes!
All right!
Oh!
She ran under 2:09, which is a personal record.
The fact that we could stay up.
His specialty, the long jump. You'll see his qualifying rounds. In addition to live track and field action, you'll see gymnastics. Finals that'll feature the Soviet Union's new Olga, Elena Shushanova, and Romania's new Nadia, Daniela Silivash. American Phoebe Mills is hoping to crash their medal party. And you'll see diving. On tap, the women's springboard final. China's Gao Min. She's the favorite. American champion Kelly McCormick and Holland's Daphne Youngyans are expected to push hard for the 3 top spots. It's all part of a busy 9th day of competition today on NBC's coverage of the games of the 24th Olympiad.
There are 100,000 Vietnamese in Orange County. About half of them are citizens. 30,000 are registered to vote. They care deeply about 3 issues: preventing diplomatic relations with the present government of Vietnam, freeing political prisoners there, and increasing the flow of refugees here. Wilson says he's behind all 3.
I think that the United States has a particular duty to the Vietnamese because we were involved in that conflict.
The Vietnamese community is increasing its political clout. Last month, Key Nho became the first Vietnamese delegate to a Republican convention, and he succeeded in getting their issues into the party platform. With this group, memories of the Vietnam War are still fresh, and Wilson paid tribute to those who fought.
There are many in this room who are veterans of combat, and that we celebrate the sacrifice that they have made, and that it is something upon we place enormous value.
But he carefully avoided mentioning Republican vice presidential nominee Dan Quayle, who joined the National Guard and avoided combat in Vietnam. At the Republican convention, Wilson defended Quayle, saying the war was a confusing issue for many young men at the time.
I just think that the man is sincere and honest, and I think he is not somebody...
Stand by.
We will obviously having some problems with that report. We'll move on with the news right now. On the national scene, the critical first debate between presidential candidates Michael Dukakis and George Bush is coming tomorrow night. This has been a day for getting ready. Now, the debate will be held on the campus of Wake Forest University. That is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. That school's Waite Chapel is now a TV studio, the focal point for an expected audience of 100 million viewers.
And Evelyn did. Evelyn didn't seem to have the snap she did yesterday when she set an Olympic record and ran 10.88. But she ran a good race in that she didn't panic. She probably said to herself, this is only the semifinal. I have to make the top four. Don't panic, just get up to speed and then press through once you get to your top. And Gwen Torrance was really ahead of her until about 90 meters. And you can see Evelyn finally barely second place.
We'll be back with more of the Olympics in just a moment. Already set 2 Olympic records, running a 10.88. Evelyn Ashford matched that yesterday, and then she came back and she answered Evelyn with a 10.62. Her husband, Al Joyner, now husband and coach, and Evelyn Ashford, who we understand now officially has won her first semifinal. It was close to the tape, a time of 10.99. The top 4 finishers moving through, and they are Evelyn Ashford, Nuneva of Bulgaria, Gwen Torrance of the United States, and Juliet Cuthbert of Jamaica. So the 2 East Germans, Marlies Gerb and Silke Gladys-Muller, do not move through to the finals. And here is Florence Griffith Joyner. She is in lane 5. Pauline Davis is in lane 1. Grace Jackson is in 2. Merlene Ottey was scheduled for 3. She has scratched. Natalia Pomosnikova of the Soviet Union is in 4. Florence Griffith Joyner is in 5. Heike Drexler of East Germany is in 6. Ulrika Savari of West Germany is in 7. And Nellie Coleman of Holland is in lane 8. The trademark fingernails of Florence Griffith Joyner. And we'll have a false start, and I believe it was on Flojo. It looked as if she was leaning just a bit. Her husband and coach, Al Joyner, of course, she previously had been coached by Bob Kersey and made that change about 9 weeks ago after the trials in Indianapolis. Speaking of Indianapolis, let's take a look at her world record there, Frank Shorter.
She gets a very good start every time. Here she probably rolled a little bit. There she didn't, just came up, out with the gun, and she accelerates the entire race. That's what's so amazing about Flojo, is that she runs the whole race well. She doesn't have a weak segment, and that was just amazing. People doubted it then, but after her Olympic record here, no one doubts that she's the fastest woman in the world.
World record holder at 10:49. And she has been charged with a false start. You are allowed 1. If she's charged with another, she is out of the Olympics in this event. Davis, Jackson, lane 3 is open. Mosnikova of the Soviet Union in 4. Florence Griffith Joyner is in 5. And Heike Drexler of East Germany, a good challenger, is in 6. Savari and then Coleman in 7 and 8. And it is a fair start. And Flojo, I believe, sat in the blocks, but now she starts to move. Here she comes. Heike Drexler will chase her a 10.70. After after a false start, the wind is above the allowable. 2.6, you're allowed 2.0 meters per second. But Florence Griffith-Joyner, as Evelyn Ashford looks on, continues to stun everybody. And Frank, I think that she sat in the blocks on that false start, did not want to take a chance, knew that she had speed at the high end after 60 meters.
But we know she has a great margin for error. She doesn't need a great start, because once she gets rolling, she just seems to be able to accelerate for the entire race. And it's very evident here, because Heike Drexler is on her right. Flojo's in the center. Drexler accelerates a little faster, but Flojo is going with her, and then she keeps accelerating. Now watch Drexler start to slow down. Flojo just keeps accelerating, going faster and faster, and she's even moving faster when she gets through the finish line.
Let's go down to Dave Sims.
All right, Florence, you really exploded after that start. Grace Jackson going by. What did you think after about the 30-40 meters?
Just staying relaxed. Just staying relaxed. I knew that my turnover was coming and coming. Just stay relaxed. Don't try to push it.
Why are you so much ahead of everybody else? I mean, a lot of top runners here are struggling.
Well, I don't know. This is the Olympic Games. I've trained so hard for this. This is where the medals are given out.
Yeah, Evelyn Ashford, step in here for a second. You said after your race that you were thinking too much. Why do you say that? Well, I was thinking if I mess up here, I don't make it to the final. So I put more pressure on myself than I needed to. Yeah. And Gwen Torrance, you didn't know that you had made it until it came up on the scoreboard. Well, I was out in front, and that's something uncommon for me because I got a very good start. I felt Evelyn on the side of me, and then I started panicking because it was like close to the line. I was like, I got to be in the top 4. But I felt that I was, but I saw 2 people on the side, so I just wanted to look and make sure. As Evelyn said, you beat some folks. Are you surprised that 2 East Germans didn't make it in your heat? Well, they hadn't been running too good, and it was mainly going to be the people that were consistent in their races that were going to make it to the finals. All right, what about Florence? Going to be a USA sweep?
That's right. That's what I'm looking for.
Kelly McCormick had her chance and didn't quite take advantage of it.
Well, I think Galman has a very comfortable lead here.
All right, that's the story in the women's springboard final. 2 Chinese.
The United States in 4. Stefan Kerstan of France is in 5. Jerzy Hudec of Czechoslovakia is in 6. Thomas Kearns is in 7 and has been charged with a false start. And Rashid Massouk is in lane 8.
You always have to watch Mark McCoy. He always ends up next to very good hurdlers. Luckily, Roger Kingdom is a right leg hurdler, as is McCoy. But McCoy is such a fast starter, and he often will hit hurdles in the middle of the race, and they have a tendency to bounce into the other runners' lanes. So Roger Kingdom should be aware of that. Roger, of course, can just run right through them.
McCoy in 3, Kingdom in 4. Fair start, top 4 finishers through to the semifinals. Is McCoy out in front of Kingdom. Here comes Kingdom. Roger Kingdom just turned on the afterburners. He's going to blow away this field. Kingdom, McCoy. I believe it was Kerstan for third, 13:18. And another Olympic record.
Roger Kingdom just decided after the 3rd hurdle in this race that he was going to open it all the way up and just see what kind of speed he had. He's drifting to his left, McCoy is drifting to his right, but Roger Kingdom now is so far ahead it really doesn't matter. He's hurdling very well for Roger Kingdom. He's only knocking down about every other hurdle, but it doesn't matter with him. He's so big, he's so strong.
That was the first heat, the official time 13:17. This is the second heat. Tony Campbell of the United States is in lane 3 in this heat. Harry Kinston is next in 4. John Ridgeon of Great Britain is in 5. And Philippe Souret of France is in 6. And Tony Campbell hits a hurdle but continues to lead. And he easily qualifies in a time of 13:47. Not pleased, he's just not pleased with the race, but pleased with the results.
I think he's also happy that he didn't hit the deck after that 8th hurdle. He hit it very hard. He was going at a good pace. He was probably on the way to an extremely fast time, but he crunches the 8th hurdle and almost doesn't recover. You can see right there, the strength and the agility of these athletes is incredible. To be able to be going at the speed they are traveling and recover from an accident like that is incredible.
Now let's go down to Dave Sims.
All right, I got Roger Kingdom and Tony Campbell. First, we'll let Tony catch his breath. Roger, you were explosive in your race, an Olympic record, but you're complaining of some leg problems. Tell us about it.
Well, I got a decent start this time. As soon as I made my first surge to come back, I felt the pinch in my leg, and I didn't know how to react to it, so
I just kept going. Then finally I was able to run a pretty decent race.
Were you surprised you got the Olympic record?
Well, I was surprised that I ran a time that fast because this track is awfully fast. I was running up on the hurdles too close, and it was hard to react, so I crashed quite a few.
Your whole thing is to show off to the fans, be explosive, and go for the gold. You said you're the Rodney Dangerfield of this event.
Exactly. I think we all are Rodney Dangerfield because I even get no respect.
All right, back to Charlie, and we'll get to Tony a little bit later.
Believe me, you'll start getting a lot more respect after these Olympic Games if he continues to run like that. Let's go back down to Dave.
All right, thanks, Charlie. Tony Campbell, you're running well. How's that track for you?
This track is incredibly fast. I mean, I set the record on it before Rogers broke it, but I feel really good. I was warned by head coach Russ Rogers to watch out because the track had gotten a little faster and to control yourself. And I didn't take his advice.
Let's now spend a moment in time to feel that he will be facing at age 33, and he is going for an unprecedented fourth gold medal. Third gold medal. It could have been four. It could have been four. What might have been if we had not had the boycott of the games in 1980. So officially it'll be, have now entered the Olympic Stadium for the finals of the men's 400-meter hurdles. World record holder, Olympic record holder, this man, Edwin Moses. Gold in 76 and the gold in 84. Earlier we had a chance, of course, to see the semifinals of the women's 100 meters. Evelyn Ashford, Unova, Torrance, and Cuthbert. Florence Griffith Joyner, Heike Dressler. It's going to be a very, very fast and fun finals. And of course the finals coming up later in the show, and Carl Lewis qualifying in the long jump.
He has to put the 100 meters behind him from yesterday. Even though he set an American record, I'm sure that he was not pleased with the fact that he lost the race, and he has to concentrate on the long jump. Larry Myricks has already qualified. He had an automatic qualifier, and this was his first round jump. There's some swirling winds down on the floor of the stadium, and Larry checked up a little bit just before the board, but he was able to jump 26.10 and a half, and that automatically qualified him for tomorrow's final.
Carl Lewis trying to repeat now in the two remaining individual events as a gold medalist, and that feat has never been accomplished before. That, of course, being the long jump and the 200 meters.
You know, everybody measures Carl against himself. We have to realize that in all these years of Olympic history, the 100, the 200, the long jump, no man has ever repeated in any one of those events. And also Carl Lewis ran up against probably not even arguably the greatest sprinter in the 100 meters that we've ever seen.
Well, I think without a doubt. And I'm not sure that everybody realized how good Ben Johnson was until yesterday, and now the world truly knows. All the questions have been answered.
This is Robert Emian, the only other man besides Bob Beamon to jump over 29 feet. He did it at altitude as well as did Beamon, but he's a threat, silver medalist from the World Championships. He cannot be counted out, but he does have a wrap on the right leg, which does not bode well for Emian. He's short. He's very, very fast. But speaking of fast, Carl being in American record shape in the 100 meters, that tells me that he's ready to bust one in the long jump.
All right, as we await the action here, let's go back to Brian Gumbel.
Throughout the competition, on the last throw of the meet, he throws 276 feet, 6 inches, and steals the gold medal from Jan Železný of Czechoslovakia, who was the pre-meet favorite and the leader at the time. There are no more throws left in this competition. It is over. And Tapio Korhus of Finland steals the competition, much the way Seppo Räty of Finland stole the competition at the World Championships last year in Rome. Very powerful thrower. This is a country known for their javelin throwers. In fact, Jorma Kanunen's son from many years ago in the 60s was in this final this afternoon. But that is the winning throw, 276 feet, 6 inches, just about 3 feet under his best. Železný takes the silver, and Seppo Räty came up from 5th, 6th place near the end of the competition to snatch the bronze. An outstanding performance, and the entire competition basically took place at the end. Here's Carl Lewis, his first jump in the long jump, happened a few minutes ago. Again, this is just qualifying. It's 3 jumps, but Carl is famous for qualifying on his very first attempt. And he does so quite easily. 26, 6 1/4. The very first jump of the competition. He'll pack it up and get ready for the long jump final tomorrow.
And as all of that has been going on, Edwin Moses came out with the other finalists in the men's 400-meter hurdles, and Edwin, meticulous as always, something that we talked about yesterday that we noticed for the first time, but that only means that he's been doing it. We just hadn't been picking it up. Is when he came out and put down his starting blocks, he pulled out a tape measure to make sure, and this was taped earlier, exactly in the same spot every time. And as Frank pointed out, he's sure that it's a metric tape measure, so if he loses it, he can buy one anywhere in the world.
And he probably carries it with him on the airplanes. He doesn't pack it. He's so precise about his ritual, and I think that's good. He's got it down, as his wife Morella said, to a science, and he finds it works, and so he sticks with it.
Also, he is the only entrant in the finals who went all the way down the back straight. Everybody else went like to the first hurdle or just past the first hurdle. Edwin always goes down the back straight, a feel of the wind, what that back straight looks like. And that also, I think, is part of his ritual. There is Morella, his wife, and his mother Gladys is also here looking on. Now, a note about Edwin Moses. He leads with his left leg. He's a left leg lead hurdler. He hurdles on the extreme left edge of the hurdle. By doing this, he saves himself 4 to 5 meters in each race.
That's a possibility. All the lanes are measured from 1 foot outside of the inside lane line. So by being a left leg hurdler, if you could dance on that line all the way around, you could save yourself upwards of 4 or 5 meters. Conversely, with a right leg hurdler, they are going to run further than 400 meters. So this is a very important point, and I'm sure not a point lost on Edwin Moses when he was younger.
Let's take a look at the lane assignments. Harold Schmidt of West Germany is in lane 1. If he did not come along the same time as Edwin Moses, he would be one of the great hurdlers of all time. Kevin Young of the United States, one of the young challengers, and he'll be pulling on Moses. He'll be inside of Edwin. Edwin is in lane 3. Winthrop Graham of Jamaica is in 4. Amadou Diaba of Senegal is in 5. Andre Phillips of the United States is outside in lane 6, with only Chris Akabusi of Great Britain and Edgar Itt of West Germany outside of him. So of the 3 Americans, Kevin Young, Edwin Moses, and Andre Phillips, Phillips has the worst lane.
And Kevin Young has a bit of an advantage. He's on the inside of Edwin Moses. He can watch him the whole way. This is Andre Phillips.
Andre Phillips in lane 6. Ranked number 1 in the world in 85 and 86, but he has never defeated Edwin Moses. Everybody else is up. Edwin, sometimes I think he likes to take a bit of a nap right before the race. He always goes and sits down by the blocks. Yesterday in the semifinals, he went back stretched out, just very, very relaxed. Part of the, again, part of the ritual of getting ready.
Also an important note, this track, unlike many others, lane 1 and lane 2 is never real great on any track in a 400 hurdles or a 400 meters, but this is a track that has very wide sweeping turns. So lane 1 and 2 aren't as bad as they could be. So Edwin Moses in lane 3 is really in a good spot.
The first hurdle, and Edwin wins it. He is out, and so is Andre Phillips, is really running strong out in lane 6.
But Edwin looks very, very good. Already made up a stagger. He's in the best lane. He has Andre Phillips in his sights.
But Andre Phillips is leading him about a half step over the hurdles. And Kevin Young is also challenging.
Now Edwin's coming on. He's starting to gain.
Edwin's in lane 3. Phillips is in lane 6.
They're even.
Diaba, they're coming away from Amadou Diaba. Here comes Andre Phillips. Can Edwin catch him? 1 barrier to go. Look out for Amadou Diaba. Phillips, Diaba, and Moses. Gold, silver, and bronze. king is dead. Long live the king.
This is very possibly the biggest upset in this Olympic Games to this point. Andre Phillips, as you said, Charlie, never, ever beating Edwin Moses. Edwin Moses, did he have one more Olympic race in his legs? Andre Phillips went out so very quickly. The very first 200 meters, I'm sure, Frank, you must have thought he's going to come back to Edwin. I'm sure Edwin thought he's going to come back to me.
Andre Phillips had no choice. He had absolutely no choice but to go out and run as hard as he could because he knew Edwin was on his inside, and he was so many lanes to the outside, he knew he would never know where Edwin was until they came off the turn. But right here, he didn't make the Carl Lewis mistake. He is looking right down the straightaway. He's saying, I don't see him in front of me, so that means I'm at least even. I'm going to run. And he didn't chop the hurdles. His steps were perfect. Unlike the semifinal where he hit that hurdle 2 hurdles from the finish, he deserves this.
47:20, a new Olympic record.
Andre Phillips, the man who did not make the Olympic team in 1984. He finished 4th in our Olympic trials. Terribly disappointed. Just kept running, kept running. He turned into a great hurdler. He's a very good 110-meter hurdler, and I think that did him very well in this final. He said, I am here. I'm getting over those barriers. No hitting them like I did in the semifinal. I'm getting over these barriers. This is the day he is not going to catch me.
And the strong surge by Chris Amadou Diaba. Now let's go to Dave.
Finally got you. Andre Phillips finally got you. What kind of a race was it for you?
Well, not good enough. I ran a good race. I got a medal. I beat the odds by being here, so I'm happy.
All right.
And I knew I was going against the odds from the beginning. I'm still happy.
Well, you
the main thing is to take part. I took part. I did the best that I can.
Congratulations on doing that. What did you think of Andre's run? Did you get a chance to really feel for Andre and see him? Okay, I guess that'll be it for Edwin Moses. Back up to Charlie.
That is all part of the Olympics. It has a nice feel. Brian?
Okay, Charlie, thanks very much. Edwin Moses, obviously a story coming up with the bronze, but that young man you see right there, Andre Phillips, is also a story. He's a young man who didn't even make the '84 Olympic team and was so disappointed by that he decided he was going to take up the decathlon. But his inability to master the discus sent him back to the hurdles. And right now the American track team's glad of that. We're looking forward to some more great...
Moses, no one has ever run that fast as he did. And then...
And I got 13, and all I knew then was just to come home, and I felt Amadou Diaba on me, but I held him off. I felt good.
How many times did you race against Edwin without a win until today?
Oh, man, since 79. So I don't know how many that is. But in the last 3 years, this is our 4th meeting. Our last 4 years. So it was hard to get, for us to hook up, but this was the best. I mean, I couldn't ask for any more.
And it was a great lap. I enjoyed your lap. Let's get back to Charlie.
Thank you, David. Hang in there. I know it's getting rough.
Gold medal performance.
Oh, yeah. And she also holds the Olympic record, 10:62, which she set here yesterday. Also the American record. Those records are not going to mean anything if they do not stand by a gold medal. The lane assignments. Gwen Torrance of the United States is in lane 1. Natalia Pomosnikova of the Soviet Union is in 2. Florence Griffith-Joyner of the United States is in 3. Amelia Nuneva of Bulgaria is in 4. Earlier she was using her married name, Vetrinikova, but prefers Nuneva, and that's the one that we will go by. Lane 5, Heike Dressler of East Germany. Evelyn Ashford of the United States is in lane 6. And Juliet Cuthbert of Jamaica and Grace Jackson of Jamaica, they're in lane 7 and 8. The Americans, Gwen Torrance in 1, Florence Griffith-Joyner in 3, Evelyn Ashford in 6, and there has never been a sweep in the women's 100 meters. And here's FloJo, 6 fastest times in history. Evelyn Ashford. Gwen Torrance. dress shirt. East Germany. Flojo is out. Duneva goes with her. It is Flojo and Duneva. Here comes Evelyn. Here comes Flojo. Oh, she runs away with it by 6 meters. 10:54. Woo! The wind is above the allowable, but that does not affect the color of the medal that she will receive.
Charlie, it really doesn't matter because she won the Olympic gold medal. She still holds the Olympic record, and she still holds the world record because she set the Olympic record in the qualifying, so she does have that as well. What matters here is that she won, and she also showed convincingly that she just has a different gear. She's taken so much to say with her that she pulls up. Flojo now is just beyond anyone else in the race. That's where she really pulls away. Duneva pulls, and it looks like Evelyn Ashford was in there for a second.
Evelyn Ashford edging out.
Running position very quickly. They used to think that you had to stay low. Now they feel you get up and running as fast as you possibly can, and she just looks the same. She's smiling. That's where she knew she was pulling away. This is my race. This is my gold medal.
And you saw Duneva pulling up. And there's the champion. Let's go down to Dave.
Evelyn Ashford, you got third place?
No, second
place. Second place. You were one.
God, don't give me third.
Also out on the track, we'll get to see Mary Decker-Slaney, a young lady who has had some bad luck in the Olympics over the years. In '84, she tripped and fell. In '80, she had the boycott depriver. In '76, she had an injury. In '72, she was too young. She's been the premier women's middle distance runner for some time now, but has yet to come up with an Olympic medal. She'll get another shot tonight. And of course, there will be gymnastics action too. And we would remind you that tomorrow night, we're going to be here at 7:30 Eastern Time. We invite you to tune in. We'll stay on the air about a half an hour, and then we will break away for the presidential debate. We'll be gone from you for an hour and a half. But we
in Labana Children's Hospital. We do have a pediatrician.
Keeping you apprised of all of the developments here from Seoul, and then
Well, we'll talk to Pappy for you, Cousin Josh.
Yeah?
No matter how hard he whops us. And we'll just keep talking till either him or us gives up.
Well, you don't know what it means to me, kids, really.
We're having fried squirrel and corn pone for breakfast, if and you'd like to come over.
I'd like to, but the captain's sending me down the mountain to Knoxville in the morning.
Mountain style, honey.
I think of one reason why not.
Oh, I can. Selena's oldest, and she's got to get married first.
Well, I just have to teach her how to wrestle so she can throw old Jody.
Hey, Lieutenant.
Huh?
You been swimming?
Oh, you might call it that, yeah.
Sure beats flying F-84s, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's just as dangerous.
Oh, I don't know. All depends on how you want to die. Now, take that little Selena gal, for instance.
You like that, huh?
Oh, are you kidding? What's not to like?
I know what you mean, Sergeant. Sergeant.
Yes, sir?
I'm going to give you a new assignment. You're to capture the affections of one Selena Tatum. When I give an order, Sergeant, I expect you to snap to.
Yes, sir. Boy, for an assignment like that, I gotta get my snapper fixed.
All right, men, you have your assignment. Now go to work. Lieutenant, dismiss the men. Yes, sir. Hands, hut! Dismiss.
All set, Lieutenant.
Right, Sergeant.
You better gas her up when you get to the base, sir.
Right, Sergeant.
Oh, hey, look, we got company.
Hi.
Can we hitch a ride to Knoxville with y'all?
Be my pleasure. Hop in.
We want to buy some of them fancy things you was telling us about. Yeah, and we got $6.87 cash money, too.
Media blitz. People literally change the way they think about pornography and their own use of it. The headlines after 3 weeks of the Stop campaign were, video stores remove X-rated material. It's happening in Oklahoma City. In the last 3 years, all the adult bookstores, all the X-rated theaters, all the nude bars, all the escort services have been eliminated. And the rape rate has gone down 23% in Oklahoma City, while it's gone up all across the state of Oklahoma. I have been meeting with leaders in Pittsburgh and in Washington, D.C., and in Atlanta, and in Minneapolis, and in Denver, and Dallas, and Springfield, Missouri, and Anderson, Indiana, and Oklahoma City, and Tulsa, who say, hey, we want the laws against illegal obscenity and child pornography enforced. We want these places closed down.
If it can happen in Oklahoma City, in Kansas City, it can happen in your city and across America. If you'll make your voice heard with your call and pledge of $15 a month. We need to remind you that some of the scenes during this hour are not suitable for children. We urge you to have them leave the room. Our next story made national headlines just last year.
Today, like every Monday, Dixie Gallery is visiting the graveside of her daughter. Over and over, she searches her memory for glimpses of a young girl who loved life and had so much promise. The evening of January 12, 1986, still seems like a nightmare.
We got a call, and it said that her boyfriend said that she was missing, that they didn't know what had happened, that they thought she'd been kidnapped.
Here in front of her boyfriend's house in Albuquerque, New Mexico, popular 22-year-old Linda Lee Daniels had been abducted. Linda's photo was in the papers the next morning. Then, the waiting began. The Cincinnati police called this section of the city the combat zone. Harold Mills was on the vice squad of the Cincinnati Police Department. He remembers the citizens' campaign that closed down every X-rated business in the city and kept them out. Since that time, new life has come to the area.
We had a massage parlor on a corner, we had a couple bookstores, X-rated bookstores, and we had an X-rated movie. On these corners, for example, at this time of day, there'd be half a dozen prostitutes on each corner. It absolutely and positively was not safe to walk through here, and people knew it, you know, because of the assaults and the numerous crime.
But the pornographers had made a big mistake. Cincinnati was about to become the birthplace for one of the most successful anti-pornography projects in America. Dr. Jerry Kirk is president of the National Coalition Against Pornography, based in Cincinnati.
Anybody that really cared about the quality of life here in Cincinnati, as they saw the proliferation of pornography, had to become sick about what was happening. What was happening to children and to women and to families. And a few courageous people decided to do something.
One of those people was Charles Keating, a concerned businessman who collected the signatures of 25,000 citizens demanding an end to the porn trade in Cincinnati. Those signatures spurred Simon Lease Jr., the county's prosecuting attorney, to action. Over the next few years, he closed down every X-rated business in the city. Lease is currently Hamilton County Sheriff.
I'm totally convinced, based upon the present laws
and a ruling by the Supreme Court of the United States that every city can accomplish the same thing.
Arthur Ney Jr. is the current county prosecutor.
We were very, very successful. We don't have, as of this moment, an adult bookstore in this county or an X-rated movie house in this county. We don't have any massage parlors.
Murder, rape, muggings, and other violent crimes in the area dropped 83%. Law and order now rule what was once the combat zone. But in hundreds of communities across America, hardcore obscene pornography is openly and blatantly advertised and sold. That's why the National Coalition Against Pornography has launched STOP, Stand Together Opposing Pornography, a nationwide campaign to help expose the real story behind violent, degrading pornography and help communities across America organize to put a stop to it. Your help is urgently needed. For the sake of our families, our children, and everything we hold to be good, please call now.
That's the kind of success we can see in cities all across America, but it won't happen without thousands of you joining with us during the critical months ahead with your pledge of $15 a month. Because of the urgency of the problem, perhaps you can send a single gift of $25, $50, $100, even $500 right now.
In 1984, North Carolina had over 700 pornographic outlets. 700. In just 18 months, they cut that down to fewer than 100 because enough people said, no, we've had enough.
We need that to happen across America, and it can, because when you call, you'll be joining the National Coalition Against Pornography in a strategy of action that can clean up our cities, streets, and neighborhoods of illegal, hardcore pornography. Will include your name and the names of thousands of other Americans.
Writes an open letter to the public. He writes, pornography was not the only negative influence in my life, but its effect was devastating. If pornography had not been available to me, my sexual activities probably would not have escalated to the degree they did. The confessions of two killers. Isolated incidents, or the tip of the iceberg? Dr. Victor Klein, University of Utah psychologist, has studied the behavior of sex offenders for 15 years.
The evidence suggests again and again and again that all sexual deviations are learned. Now, how are they learned? They're learned through some form of accidental conditioning. Now, that could come from seeing pornography and then masturbating to it. And for these reasons, I think that there are serious risks with anybody who exposes themselves to this kind of material on any kind of repeated basis.
In 1985, the FBI conducted a study on the common traits of serial killers. Among the findings, 81% of the men admitted their biggest sexual interest had been in viewing pornographic materials and fantasizing. The FBI study also reported that a large majority of serial killers feed on pornography. Dr. Park Deeks served on the 1986 Federal Commission to study the effects of pornography.
The pornographers would like people to believe that you need an experiment to tell you whether pornography is bad or not. Well, we know for a fact that people are abused in the production of pornography, that children are seduced through the use of pornography, that women are harassed by being subjected to displays of pornography that they don't want to see. We don't need an experiment to tell us that those are bad.
The Supreme Court has repeatedly ruled that obscene material is not protected by the First Amendment. But supporters of pornography preach that the Constitution protects the right to all forms of expression. But what about the rights of the women Theodore Bundy raped and killed? What about your rights and those of your neighbors who want to walk the streets of your community in safety and without fear?
No matter what anybody says, the evidence is overwhelming that violent pornographic material promotes violence and harm to people. And the Supreme Court has made it clear we have a right to protect the quality of life in our communities, and we do not have to give in to the assault of pornographic material upon us in our communities. And that's why the STOP campaign was born, so that people can stand together opposing pornography and protect and reestablish, in some cases, the quality of life in their community.
Your call and pledge can help stop illegal, obscene pornography. For the sake and safety of your children, your family, your community, please call right now.
I know what you're feeling right now, disgust, embarrassment, anger, but believe me, broadcasting standards and our own sense of decency keep us from showing you how shocking this material really is.
And it's in our neighborhoods and sex shops and so-called adult theaters, on newsstands and neighborhood video stores, even right there on the phone for your children to hear.
That's why your call and pledge of $15 a month is so important. We can no longer allow illegal, hardcore pornography that so blatantly promotes rape and molestation. Maybe you can send a single gift of $25, $50, $100, even $500 right now.
Your pledge will send a message loud and clear to our legislators and national law enforcement officials in no uncertain terms that the unchecked proliferation of hardcore violent pornography must stop now.
But it will only happen in the communities where enough people stand up and speak out. The next 12 to 15 months are critical in this fight. Don't leave it to someone else. Call right now.
On shimmering marquees, in slick magazines, pornography sells itself as chic, glamorous, upscale. But in recent years, the shiny surface is beginning to be peeled away. Rape, torture, disease, drug addiction, violence, sexual abuse, and connections to organized crime are being linked with hardcore obscene pornography. 39-year-old Patricia Foreman spent the better part of 20 years trapped in the cruel world of pornography and sexual abuse.
I can't think of another kind of abuse that is worse than the abuse of pornography, because it's not just raping the body, it's raping the innermost soul of that person.
Patricia's mistreatment began in the cold, grimy basement of her parents' home. There, at the age of 4, she was forced to serve as a sexual prop for picture-taking sessions with drunken child molesters, or pedophiles as they are called. Sometimes the pictures featured Patricia doing sexual things with animals.
I had tried to escape, and I was not successful. And I thought it was unfair when I saw other kids who had a home. And they had a mother and father. Who loved them. And when I went home to a world of abuse every night from school. If people knew what victims, the hell they go through in letting other people know of those things that happen to them, they wouldn't question, does it really happen? But somewhere along the line, people have got to wake up and know that this really is going on.
What's going on is that according to an FBI report, 1 out of 4 girls and 1 out of 5 boys will be molested in their childhood. Estimates are that hundreds of thousands of children are exposed every year to the commercial sex business, which includes pornography. Your children are potential victims. This American tragedy is the reason for STOP. Stand together opposing pornography. A nationwide campaign to rid our country of obscene pornography. Patricia,
right now, of sorrow and pain is almost unspeakable. Who can doubt that hardcore pornography influences, motivates, and fans the fire of sexual crime?
That's why your call and pledge of $15 a month is so urgently needed. Your month-by-month contributions over this next critical period of time will help stop the uncontrolled spread of pornography. Because of the urgent need, perhaps you can send a single gift of $25, $50, $100, even $500 right now.
But it will only happen if enough people in your community will say stop to hardcore pornography. Our operators will be standing by even after we leave the air. If you're not near a phone, write down the address on your screen. You can be sure the National Coalition Against Pornography will use your contributions wisely and effectively. If you'd like a financial report, just ask for one when you call.
We hope we've been able to stir your conscience during the last hour and help you understand the deadly threat of hardcore pornography. Please, don't leave this program without calling.
Now, for Terry Utley and myself.
More money for our school.
Because I've heard women on television interviewed, and they're asked what they do, and they say, "Oh, I'm just a housewife." Well, that's the greatest privilege in the world, to be a housewife and a mother. Don't ever apologize for it again. And then what about the children? The children, under God, are responsible to their parents. The Bible says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and thy mother, which is the first commandment with promise. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord." We're not to make our children angry and defiant by being overbearing. We're to love them. We're to explain things to them. I have one daughter, and she has 7 children. And I've noticed that she spends so much time with each one. And any one of her children talks to her, she listens intently to that child. She doesn't care who else is in the room or who else she's talking to. She may be talking to some writer or some famous person. She doesn't care. She listens to that child till the child is finished talking. And no wonder she has 7, I think, wonderful, remarkable children. Now, of course, she learned a little of that from her husband because he's a psychologist. And she learned a little of it in Switzerland because he's a Swiss, and she married into a Swiss family. But there should also be in the home, there should be love. In John 15:12, "This is my commandment, that ye love one another as I have loved you," as Sandy reminded her in us in that wonderful song. And that love that you have begins in the home. Husbands, love your wives. How? Even as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. Think of Christ dying on the cross because he loves you. And we're to love our wives and we're to love our husbands in the same way, that much. Now, some people...
formula yet. So, Bob, why come to court with a dry shirt and a false sense of security? Tomorrow, get the total protection of today's Sure.
You were right.
And be just as sure about odor as you are about wetness.
Thanks.
You already knew that you pay a lot less at C&R than at other stores. What you probably didn't know is that at C&R, you actually get a lot more. Because when you buy at C&R and you lose a button,